My entire world tilted. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, exhausted after a grueling 12-hour shift at work. My phone buzzed, and I lazily picked it up, expecting a routine text from my father. Maybe a request for money, another urgent bill I needed to cover. But this was different. She's the biggest disappointment in this family. But at least she pays our expenses. I blinked, rereading the words, hoping I had somehow misread them. My chest tightened, my breath hitching as realization sank in. This wasn't meant for me. This was meant for my stepmother. And my father, my own father, had sent it to me by accident. Disappointment? I felt my fingers tremble as I gripped the phone tighter, my pulse roaring in my ears. After everything I had done for him, I had drained myself financially to keep that household afloat. Paid their rent when my father lost his job and refused to find another. Covered my stepmother's medical bills when she conveniently fell too sick to work, but still managed to go on expensive shopping sprees. Paid for my stepbrother's tuition when my father insisted he needed to go to an elite school. And this was what he thought of me? A disappointment. My hands shook as I set my phone down. I waited, expecting a second message, a follow-up, some sort of frantic attempt to retract his words, realizing his mistake. Nothing came. Silence. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to be their free bank anymore. For years, I had convinced myself that family was everything. That if I just worked harder, if I just provided more, if I just gave enough, maybe one day, they would appreciate me. I had sacrificed my dreams, my personal life, my ambitions, just to keep my father's household running. But at that moment, sitting in the dim glow of my tiny apartment, staring at the betrayal on my screen, I finally understood the truth. They didn't love me. They loved what I could give them. I inhaled deeply, forcing myself to push past the choking lump in my throat. I pulled on my banking app, scrolling through the list of automatic payments I had been making for years. Rent, utilities, insurance, groceries, stepbrother's tuition. I canceled everything. The moment I hit confirm, something inside me shifted. A strange, unfamiliar weight lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in my life, I felt free. The first call came 3 days later. I was in the middle of work when my phone vibrated. I pulled it out of my pocket and sure enough, Dad. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. By the 5th call, my patience snapped, and I finally picked up, my voice clipped. What? There was silence on the other end. Then, a sickly sweet voice. Sweetheart, I think there's been some sort of mistake. Mistake. The word nearly made me laugh. What kind of mistake? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Well, the rent wasn't paid this month, he said carefully, as if speaking to a child. I thought maybe something happened with your bank. Nope, I said simply. More silence. Then his voice hardened. You're saying you just didn't pay? Yep. A sharp inhale. You can't just do that, you know. We rely on you. I know, I said. But I don't care. His mask slipped entirely then. His voice turned sharp, full of barely restrained rage. You think you can just stop? After everything we've done for you? Everything they'd done for me? My fingers clenched around my phone. You mean the years of financial draining, manipulation, and gaslighting? I said coldly. Yeah, I can stop. And I did. Then, before he could respond, I hung up. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt powerful. The messages started flooding in. First, from my father, long, angry rants about how I was selfish, how I was abandoning my family, how he had raised me, and I was ungrateful. Then, from my stepmother, hysterical sobbing about how I was ruining their lives, how I was so cruel to do this to them when they were struggling. Then, from my stepbrother. I don't know what happened, but Mom and Dad are freaking out. Can you please just fix whatever this is? I stared at my screen. A fix? I wasn't the problem. For once, they would have to fix things themselves. And that was when the real desperation set in. One evening, as I was unwinding from work, I received a call from my bank. There has been an attempted withdrawal from your account. the representative said cautiously. A large sum. Was this authorized? My stomach plummeted. No, I said, my voice eerily calm. Who tried to withdraw it? A pause. It was an attempt made under your father's name. Cold rage flooded my veins. They were trying to steal from me. I froze my accounts immediately. Then I called my father. He picked up instantly. Finally, you. I know what you did, I said icily. You tried to steal from me. Silence. Then, an ugly laugh. Don't be so dramatic. I was just borrowing. You wouldn't let your family suffer, would you? Something inside me shattered completely. That was the moment I knew there was no redemption for him. So, I made my final decision. I stared at my phone, my father's number still glowing on the screen. My hands felt steady, my heart like a stone in my chest. Don't be so dramatic. I was just borrowing. You wouldn't let your family suffer, would you? His words echoed in my head, bouncing off the walls of my mind. But this time, they didn't sink into my skin the way they used to. I didn't feel guilt, didn't feel panic or the suffocating need to fix things. I felt nothing. You tried to steal from me, I repeated, my voice eerily calm. I need you to listen very carefully, Dad. I am done. I will not pay another cent to keep your life afloat. A sharp intake of breath on the other end. You ungrateful little. I ended the call. And then, I blocked his number. I went to my stepmother's contact and blocked her too. Then my stepbrother. My stepmother's sister. Every family member who had ever reached out to guilt me into giving more, doing more, sacrificing more. And when I was done, I sat there, staring at my phone, waiting for the guilt to come, waiting for the weight in my chest, the crushing anxiety, the creeping fear that I had done the wrong thing. But it never came. Instead, for the first time in my life, I felt light. The silence lasted for a week. 7 blissful, uninterrupted days where I didn't have to answer calls begging for money, didn't have to read desperate texts about overdue bills. Then the emails started. Subject: urgent, please help. I skimmed through the first one. We are about to be evicted. Please send the rent immediately. You don't understand how bad things are here. Don't do this to your own family. The second one was angrier. So this is it? You're just going to abandon us? We raised you. You wouldn't be where you are today without us. UOWS. And the third? It was from my stepmother. You think you're better than us now? Just because you have a job and a little money? You're pathetic. We made you, and we can break you. Remember that. I let out a bitter laugh. They weren't even trying to hide their entitlement anymore. I hit delete on all 3 emails. I didn't hear anything for a while after that. But then one evening, my cousin called. Hey, he said, voice hesitant. Have you seen what your dad is saying about you? I frowned, unlocking my laptop. What do you mean? Just check Facebook. I pulled up the page, and the moment I saw the post, my blood boiled. I never thought my own daughter would betray me like this. After everything I've done for her, after all the sacrifices I made, she left me and my wife to starve. She's living comfortably while we struggle. How do people raise such heartless children these days? I exhaled sharply, gripping the edge of my desk. This man, had done nothing but take from me. And now he was painting himself as the victim? The comments were flooded with sympathy. Your daughter sounds awful. Kids these days are so selfish. How can she just abandon you like that? Some people have no soul. I hope she realizes her mistake before it's too late. A deep, seething rage built inside me. But mixed in with it was something else. Something stronger. Clarity. He could say whatever he wanted. I knew the truth. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. 3 weeks passed. Then one night as I was walking home from work, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. Hello. There was silence on the other end. Then a small, hesitant voice. Hey, it's me. My stepbrother. I stopped walking, my grip tightening on my phone. I don't know if you'll even listen to me, he said quickly, voice shaky. But I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much you were doing for us. A lump formed in my throat. I shouldn't have let Mom and Dad treat you like that. But I was a kid. I didn't understand. He exhaled heavily. And now? I see it. You were the only thing holding everything together. I didn't know what to say. For years, I had been alone in that house. The only one working, the only one sacrificing, the only one holding the weight of everyone else's comfort. And for the first time, someone from that house acknowledged it. I'm moving out, he admitted. I can't stay with them anymore. They keep expecting me to fix things, but I can't. And I don't want to live like that. Something in my chest cracked open. I'm sorry, he whispered, for not seeing it sooner. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to feel something other than anger. I swallowed past the lump in my throat. I appreciate you saying that. A beat of silence. Then, can we start over? He asked. Not as family, but as people who understand each other. I took a deep breath. And then finally I said, yeah, I think we can. For the first time in my life, I woke up without a knot of anxiety twisting in my stomach. No missed calls. No urgent texts demanding money. No guilt weighing me down like a chain wrapped around my neck. It had been months since I cut my father and stepmother off, and in that time, I had started to realize just how much of my life I had given away to people who never truly loved me, only what I could do for them. I had more money in my bank account than I had ever seen before. Not because I was making more, but because no one was draining me dry. And for the first time, I could actually breathe. I had freedom. But with that freedom came something I hadn't expected. Loneliness. Not the kind where you miss people who treated you badly. The kind where you look around and realize you spent so long taking care of others that you never actually built a life for yourself. It was time to change that. It started small. I went out to dinner alone, something I had never allowed myself to do before, because I was too busy saving money for everyone else. I took time off work, not to handle a family crisis, but just to rest. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with because my life had revolved around my father's constant demands. And most importantly, I stopped apologizing for choosing myself. At first, it felt wrong, like I was being selfish. But then I realized I was just living, something my father and stepmother had never actually wanted me to do. Because the moment I started living for myself, I stopped being useful to them. One evening, my stepbrother texted me, "Hey, can I call?" A part of me hesitated, but then I sighed and replied, "Yeah." When I picked up, his voice was different, less hesitant, less weighed down. "Guess what?" he said. "I got a job." I smiled. Yeah. It's not great, but it's mine. And I'm paying my own rent now. Something in my chest warmed. I had spent so long being the only responsible one in my family that I had never imagined someone else would step up. But here he was. Not perfect, not completely healed, but trying. And for the first time, I realized maybe some people could change. Not everyone, but some. And maybe, just maybe, he was worth keeping in my life. I thought my father had finally given up on trying to control me. I was wrong, because one night, after 6 months of silence, I received a call from an unknown number. I stared at my phone. A strange feeling twisted in my gut. I knew. I just knew. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello." Silence. Then, "It's your father." My chest tightened, my muscles locking into place. I had mentally prepared for this moment. And yet, hearing his voice again felt like a ghost slipping back into my life. "I just wanted to talk," he said smoothly, as if nothing had happened. "To clear the air." "There's nothing to clear," I said coldly. "I know who you are now." A heavy pause. Then, in the most pitiful voice I had ever heard from him, "We're struggling. I don't know what to do." I closed my eyes. Of course, this wasn't about clearing the air. This was about money. Again. "You should have thought about that before you spent years using me like an ATM," I said flatly. His tone sharpened. "Don't be so heartless. I'm still your father." "No," I said simply. "You stopped being my father the day you tried to steal from me." A deep, furious breath on the other end of the line. So that's it? You're just going to abandon your family? I exhaled. He would never change. I'm not abandoning my family, I said quietly. I'm choosing myself. And then, I hung up. I blocked the number. And this time, I didn't wait for guilt to creep in. I just let it go. Something strange happened after that final call. I woke up the next morning and realized I didn't feel anything. No anger. No sadness. No guilt. I had spent so long holding on to my father's mistakes, his betrayal, his endless manipulation. And now, I just let it go. Because at the end of the day, he wasn't my problem anymore. I had a new life to build. And I wasn't going to waste another second of it looking back. Even after all the anger, the pain, the betrayal, I won't lie. Walking away wasn't easy. There were moments when I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had made a mistake. Moments when I'd hear my father's voice in my head, saying the same words he always used to guilt me. Family takes care of each other. You wouldn't have anything if it weren't for us. You think money is more important than blood? For so long, I had believed him. But then I remembered every single time he had taken from me without gratitude. Every single time he had guilt-tripped me into sacrificing my happiness. Every single time he had treated me like a bank, not a daughter. And suddenly, the guilt faded. No, I wasn't in the wrong. I had done everything for them. And in return, they saw me as nothing more than an ATM with a beating heart. I wasn't the villain in this story. I was just finally choosing myself. It was strange at first. For years, I had structured my life around my father's needs, my stepmother's demands, my stepbrother's education. Without them, my days felt wide open, unstructured, limitless. For the first time, I could wake up without dread. I could spend my paycheck on myself instead of watching it disappear into their endless black hole of financial problems. I could finally dream without guilt. So I did. I booked my first vacation, something I had never dared to do before. I started taking better care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally. And perhaps most importantly, I reclaimed my time. Time I had wasted worrying about them. Time I had spent fixing their messes instead of building my future. Time that, for the first time ever, belonged entirely to me. Months passed. Then, one afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. I knew who it was before I even opened it. I never thought you'd actually leave. I thought you'd always come back. It was short, almost hollow. The words of a man who never thought I had the strength to walk away. A man who had always assumed that no matter how badly he treated me, I'd still come running the moment he needed me. He had miscalculated. I stared at the message for a long moment, and then I deleted it. No response. No second thoughts. No hesitation. I was done. There was no dramatic moment where everything clicked into place. No sudden realization that my life had changed. It happened in small, quiet ways. The first time I bought something expensive for myself, without feeling guilty. The first time I woke up on a Sunday morning and didn't immediately brace myself for an emergency phone call. The first time I spent money without thinking about how much they might need it instead. And with every little step, every little moment of peace, I felt the chains break, one by one, until, finally, I was completely, undeniably free. With my father and stepmother gone from my life, I realized something else. I had room to build something better. So I did. I started reaching out to people who actually cared about me, not for what I could give, but for who I was. I surrounded myself with genuine friends. I rebuilt my relationship with my stepbrother, not as forced family, but as two people who had survived the same toxic household. And, most importantly, I started dreaming again. Because for the first time ever, I had a future that belonged to me. No more guilt. No more expectations. No more being a free bank for people who never appreciated me. Just me. My dreams. My happiness. And it felt good. The last time I heard about my father, it was through a distant relative. Apparently, he was struggling. His marriage had collapsed after my stepmother realized he was useless without my money. He had been forced to take a low-paying job, one he used to look down on people for having. He was bitter, angry, still telling people that I had betrayed him, still convinced that I was the villain. And you know what? I didn't care.